It seems Capcom can't help but keep making Street Fighter V worse. The thing launched in an underwhelming state, an early triple access title, and has only gotten grindier and less fun to play over time. Being roster-based, very competitive, and full of characters that people specifically choose and main, fighting games have a lot of leverage over their customers. Leverage that game publishers routinely exploit to make more money out of already paying customers. So with Capcom ever desperate to milk more and more money from Street Fighter, starting December 11th, that's today, you will see in-game commercials for SF5 listed as sponsored content. Capcom plans to go the whole hog with this. You will see the ads on character costumes, you'll see them in stages, and you'll see them on loading screens. In-game advertising is nothing new. Product placement in sports games like FIFA is fairly common. Hell, even Metal Gear Solid 4 had an iPod. But the fact Capcom is shoveling these commercials into everything is just a little bit bloody tacky. Here's the Capcom blog about the situation. Sponsored content will be introduced into Street Fighter V Arcade Edition on December 11. Sponsored content will be displayed in several locations in-game to remind you about costumes, bundles, and the Capcom Pro Tour. When sponsored content is enabled, players can obtain additional fight money in ranked and casual matches. These bonuses come with an upper limit. Here are the places where you can see sponsored content. Costumes, ad style. Every character will have an ad style costume where the sponsored content will appear somewhere on their clothing or model. Loading ads. A sponsor will appear in the versus screen before a battle. This will not affect loading screen times. Stage ads. Some tournament stages feature a sponsor like the Ring of Power. Now you'll notice that... Hang on. Sorry, I'm not throwing up, I'm just getting dry heaves when I think about the sponsor. Something about sponsored content being crammed everywhere into a premium game is making me feel just a little bit queasy. But you will notice in that announcement that actual in-game rewards are being tied to these commercials. You can switch them off, but you'll be saying goodbye to Street Fighter V's stingily dispensed fight money. By creating special sponsored content costumes, Capcom has also worked out a way to lock content behind having these ads switched on. Yet again, this is a case of a premium-priced game publisher adopting models from the free-to-play market. Now, if I'm playing something like, I don't know, Bendy's Run on my mobile phone, that's a free game that has ads in it to support the game itself. And you can watch those ads to get extra currency or pick up where you left off if you die. It's very common in mobile games, in free-to-play mobile games. Free to play. Capcom is doing what the industry at large did with microtransactions. Take something that was designed to support a free-to-play game, a free-to-play economy, and shovel it into a game that you're charging a not insignificant upfront fee for. Now I'm waiting for a AAA video game to have those ads where you sit and watch them for 30 seconds in order to pick up where you left off if you die. We've already got the product placement. There was a Rockstar Energy promotion inside Mad Max of all bloody games. But with sponsorship appearing in stages, on costumes, and in loading screens, Capcom's pushing us further towards the normalization of in-game premium advertising. They've not started putting full-on third-party advertisements in these games yet, but I would not be surprised at all if that's where we eventually end up. Because if we've learned one thing about the video game industry already, it's that you give them an inch and they'll take the fucking country. People have already paid to play Street Fighter V. They've already paid, doubtlessly, for a whole bunch of DLC connected to Street Fighter V. But all of that money isn't good enough. No amount of money is ever good enough. The only real shocker here is that it hasn't been adopted en masse sooner, because that's gotta be one of the next things in the pipeline, one of the next get-rich-quick schemes. Let's start selling premium-priced AAA games and putting a whole bunch of ads in them to boot. And this is one of those things where, if that's all the games were doing to make a little bit of extra money, maybe it wouldn't be so egregious. But it's always on top of other methods of monetization, increasingly exorbitant and obscene methods of monetization, because they just won't fucking stop. The avarice never stops. And with Street Fighter V, Capcom is not just putting sponsored content into its games, it's not just a bit of product placement, they're shoving it front and center and using the game itself and the game's own currency to incentivize your willful exposure to the ads in question. And I don't like where that's going because I don't like advertisers as a thing, as an entity. They have way too much power over the content being produced. Just look at how sanitized network television is, and that's only to keep advertisers happy, because there's content that advertisers do and do not want to be associated with, and because they hold the purse strings, they call the shots. There's actually an entire Jimquisition episode in this, and I may get to that very soon. But I will say right now, if Capcom is setting a precedent with this, it's a very bad one being set. In fact, I said earlier, if that's all video games were doing, just using adverts, it'd be a bit more acceptable. Actually, yeah, fuck that. Unless the content is completely free to begin with, ads, very much like microtransactions, have no frigging place in a premium priced game. Between all the DLC and your season passes and your multiple editions and your microtransactions and your loot boxes, you've got enough, game industry. You've got more than fucking enough. I mean, I know that because you're never satisfied, the more you have, the more you want. You literally don't feel like you have enough. But to right-minded fucking people who aren't trapped in this ridiculous late-stage capitalistic swampland you've found yourself in, you've got bloody plenty. And this is all before we get to the ludicrousness of the characters themselves wearing branding. Would Ryu be running around advertising things on his gear? Would he? Really? I'm surprised Capcom hasn't stuck a pair of fucking Nikes on his feet. Yet more desperate money sucking from an increasingly desperate game industry. That's what this is. Just sheer, naked, thirsty desperation. I know plenty of people are going to be fine with this. I know some are going to be taking a wait-and-see approach with this, but sorry, the game industry spent every last credit of good faith it could have with me. Fuck this and fuck them.